Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2023 biopic Oppenheimer. Now, I don't necessarily feel that it's one of the best movies of the century. I think that's really a bit much, but I would say that this is one of the better films from 2023 that I've seen. And honestly, I would say that it's one of my favorite films by Christopher Nolan. This is a movie that, in all honesty, I went into with very low expectations despite its praise because of the fact that it's a long movie, it's a biopic. Nolan tends to have a tendency to make films that are very heavy in terms of dialogue and kind of slow. And so these were things that made me a little leery of the film. But after sitting down and watching the entire thing, other than maybe a few issues with the pacing and some other aspects of the film, I was very surprised by this. I thought this was, for the most part, excellent. I thought this was a pretty staggering and stupendous film, and definitely one of the better biopics that I've seen as of late. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on Oppenheimer, I would like to give a special shout out to Sean for requesting this video. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal, my Patreon, or my Cash App. The link to all three is in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Oppenheimer is directed by Christopher Nolan, and you can really tell that this is a passion project of his. This is some really passionate, really inspired direction by Nolan. To me, Nolan still hasn't lost his touch. I mean, Tenet, I wasn't super big on, but his direction wasn't really the problem. And he continues that solid trajectory here with Oppenheimer. It's a film that, in my opinion, still features a lot of the directing tricks, a lot of the camera work that Nolan is renowned for and has gotten a lot of acclaim for over the years. And it's a movie to me visually that is genuinely quite stunning on more than one occasion. Whether it's the eventual explosion of the atomic bomb that was done with primarily practical effects, or other various sequences throughout the film, this is a movie that has some really striking and really genuinely spectacular direction. The framing is fantastic and top notch. The way that he moves the camera around, the way that he utilizes different camera techniques is very sublime and definitely something that is showcasing a genuinely absurd amount of skill when it comes to a filmmaker. And I think it definitely does show that Nolan is here to stay. Like, he is still one of the best directors working in the industry right now. He hasn't really lost a step. And for a film that's a biopic to still have this just very epic size and scope to it visually is absolutely something that is a testament to the tremendous strengths of Nolan as a director. Now, the screenplay by Christopher Nolan, based on the book American Prometheus, which in itself is based on the story of Robert J. Oppenheimer. The script, for the most part, for me personally, is great. I think there are some moments where the script kind of stumbles a little bit, especially involving the inquiry and the last act of the movie. But other than few, slip ups here and there, I think this is a really strong screenplay. And I think Nolan's style of writing, which tends to be very analytical, which tends to be very dense, and very dialogue heavy and uh, borderline pretentious. I think that is something that actually works quite well when it comes to a film that is, for the most part, from the perspective of Oppenheimer himself, who is a very rigid man, who is very, in a lot of ways, stuck inside himself. You know, he's very pompous. He's very much the type of person who's arrogant and isn't necessarily always fully aware of his flaws. He's a brilliant man, but he's also a man who is very much full of himself. And so you get a lot of that pompousness and that pretentiousness, and it actually works in the film's favor because it really does a great job putting you inside of the shoes and inside the mind of Oppenheimer. And I felt that was genuinely an interesting approach that Nolan took here, uh, which was having the majority of the focus of the story be from the point of view of Oppenheimer. So you get to see inside his head, see the neurons firing. You get to see all these different sort of things that are going on in his head in the moment, which I felt was really interesting. And I've seen a lot of people criticize the script in terms of the fact that it's not focusing on the creation of the atom bomb and the different scientists that were involved with the creation of it. And it's not really primarily focused on the Manhattan Project, and it's more focused on Oppenheimer and his time in school, and then him ultimately catching the eye of the military, and then becoming a part of the Manhattan Project, and then doing the top secret operation where they built an entire town to accommodate Oppenheimer and these other scientists in Los Alamos. And I can understand where some people are coming from, but I respectfully disagree that that's a problem because there's a lot of films already and there's a lot of other documentaries that are focused on that aspect of Oppenheimer's life. I thought it was actually genuinely interesting to see Oppenheimer's different forays into romantic liaisons with different partners. I felt it was interesting to see the more human side of Oppenheimer that you don't necessarily see as much. I thought it was fascinating to see his flaws and to see them presented in a way that was very unflinching and didn't really sugarcoat things. I liked the fact that it had the stuff involving the inquiry and him being targeted as a communist by the AEC, and his Q clearance is being attacked, and the whole kangaroo court thing, and how Strauss is essentially deciding to try to take down Oppenheimer because of Strauss's own flaws and his own assumptions and his own issues. And I've seen people criticize that, oh, it's not really about the bomb, it's about all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point of it. It's not about the bomb. It's about these other parts of Oppenheimer's life. And it's also called Oppenheimer. It's not called the Manhattan Project. It's not called Atom Bomb. It's not called Trinity. It's called Oppenheimer. So I don't necessarily have as much of an issue with it focusing on Oppenheimer as much as it does, because that's It's called Oppenheimer. That's what you're expecting. At least that's what I thought. I see a lot of people criticizing this, saying, "Oh, it doesn't have enough action. It's not thrilling enough. It doesn't show the atom bomb being dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and you don't see the Japanese and their whole experience and their reaction to it. It doesn't show that because this is all from the point of view of Oppenheimer. It would really break the illusion. It would break the whole structure of the script if you moved away to different things. And I still feel that you get the impact of the bombs being dropped on Japan. You get that without seeing the footage because you get it through Oppenheimer's own reaction to seeing slides of the devastation and the pain on his face and the anguish that he feels. And also scenes like when he meets Truman and expresses his feelings and his remorse. And then Truman is like, "You think anybody really gives a shit about you? Like, in your sob story? Uh, Nobody cares. I'm the one that dropped the bomb, not you." So so there's a lot of things about this script that are criticized that I don't really feel that they're necessarily that big of a deal to me, and I don't think they're really that problematic. But that's just me personally. I can kind of see where some people are coming from when it comes to Oppenheimer as a character and him not necessarily being the nicest or the most likable guy, but that's the reality of it. That's who Oppenheimer was. And I appreciated the fact that Nolan was like, "No, I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm going to show him as this flawed person." And I don't necessarily agree with some people who have said that it tries to glorify him in any way or tries to make him into a sympathetic figure. I don't really agree with that. I think it makes the people who worked with him into more of a sympathetic a series of figures than Oppenheimer himself, or the people who suffered the wrath of the atom bomb. Because there's a lot of moments in this script that really do paint him in a light that makes him look like somebody with questionable ideals. I mean, he's a guy who cheats on his wife. He's a guy who was so pissed off at his professor that he almost poisoned him. Uh, he's a guy who didn't really think about the consequences of his actions until it was already too late. And the screenplay really does a good job showing that particular version of Robert Oppenheimer, the real Oppenheimer, not the kind of Oppenheimer that Oppenheimer himself probably thought he was, but it shows the reality. It shows the flawed but brilliant man that he was. And you have a little bit of sympathy for him getting railroaded by the inquiry in the court that was sicked on him by Strauss and his dogs, so to speak. But you don't necessarily feel like a immense amount of sympathy because he had multiple opportunities to maybe stall the bombs from being dropped or do something more to prevent them from being dropped, and he didn't take advantage of those opportunities because it was one of those things where he was so preoccupied in terms of whether or not he could build this bomb that he didn't think about whether or not he should. So it was almost an Ian Malcolm kind of thing, from Jurassic Park. But this time around, instead of it being a park full of dinosaurs, it's an atom bomb. And I understand why some people might have wanted a little bit more when it comes to the other scientists and the other people that worked with Oppenheimer. But the movie was already really long and the script was already very dense. and full of a ton of different characters and spanned multiple decades. I don't really feel it needed to have any more of a focus on these other secondary characters than it already did. I felt that they still played a part. I felt that the script did a good job giving them specific jobs and specific things that they did in order to help with the creation of the atom bomb. And there were some moments with some of these members of the Los Alamos team that really made them stand out and made them, in my opinion, fairly memorable characters in their own right, other than just Oppenheimer. And I love the dynamic. I really like the antagonistic back and forth between Strauss and Oppenheimer. I like the chess battle between the two. That in a lot of ways is uh, one of the other main conflicts in the film, other than just the creation of the bomb and whether or not we should do it and what'll happen if we drop the bombs. And to me, the creation of the atom bomb is one of the most compelling things that has ever happened in the history of man. And this screenplay really understands the gravity and the weight of that. I am become death, destroyer of worlds. And that is definitely a quote that rings true in a lot of ways. That is kind of the essence of this film. It's all about Oppenheimer really coming to terms with the gravity and the reality of what he did. It's very well showcased when it comes to the conversation that he has with Einstein that bookends the film, and where he talks to Einstein and mentions to Einstein about the chain reaction, about how how remember when I thought that maybe if we dropped the bomb it could cause a chain reaction and destroy the world, and I said that we avoided that we did the calculations and showed that that wasn't possible. Well, I was wrong. I, I'm afraid we did. So that is something that definitely carries an immense amount of weight. And I feel Nolan handled that very well. I don't know if saying that he assumed certain things about this script is the right way to put it, but I definitely feel that he put a lot of emphasis on just the simple fact that this is a very important a part of history. And I think he felt like, okay, well, that's enough to maintain people's interest and to keep people invested in this because this is such an important part of our history. Because in a lot of ways, if we did not succeed, if Oppenheimer didn't succeed and build the bomb and successfully do so before the Germans, the Nazis would have dropped the bomb and destroyed the world and wouldn't have really thought twice about it. So there definitely was a very life or death kind of thing going on, where it's like, hey, we're racing against the clock here. Clock is ticking. We got to build this bomb before they do. And I feel the script does a really good job of creating that tension and maintaining that tension. Um, and it makes it more understandable why the military ignored a lot of the red flags involving Oppenheimer, because they're like, hey, we don't have the time to uh, really play favorites here. We don't have the time to try to really go that deep into Oppenheimer's history or his character. Like, we don't have time for that. Uh, we got to get this bomb built. We got to get this done before the Nazis do. And that drama is still equally as compelling once they build the bomb, even after the war in Europe was over, because now there's this whole will they, won't they kind of thing going on in terms of Japan. And a lot of the time, you don't see films that talk about the moments in time where you could have gone a different direction. And those are moments in this film that really make you think that you're like, well, what if we didn't drop the bomb on Japan? Could we still have found a way to end the war? What, like one of the scientists who sadly turned on Oppenheimer at the end, he mentions to Oppenheimer when the bombs are being loaded up on trucks and they're going to be sent off to the military, and then the military is going to eventually decide to drop them on Japan. He mentions to Oppenheimer, what if they knew what was coming? Would they surrender? And I'm like, that is such a compelling question, in my opinion, to think about. And this screenplay, I cannot emphasize enough how well it does and how great of a job it ultimately does when it comes to really making you feel like you're feeling the same weight and the same pressure on your shoulders that Oppenheimer was feeling when he was uh, getting all these scientists together and they're trying to race against the clock to build this bomb, and then they test it successfully, and then they give it to the military, and then they drop the bomb, and then the whole aftermath, the fallout of that, and how that affects him, and how the world completely shifts. The scene when he goes to what is supposed to be a celebration of his creation at the college, and everybody's stomping their feet and they're clapping, and it looks like the whole world is falling apart, and everything is shaking, and people are turning to ash, and he's looking around and people look sick to their stomachs and they look terrified. That is such a great encapsulation of what it was like at that moment in time when the bombs were dropped, and nuclear war was something that was now on people's minds. The power of the nuclear bomb was now something that people were very much aware of. And it was something that nobody had ever seen before. No one on the planet had ever seen that kind of destruction or that kind of devastation. And it had never been witnessed at that scale. So to me, Nolan just completely nailed the overall feeling and what it would have felt like to have been in that moment in time. And the inquiry stuff I do like because I think it's a good payoff for all these other cast of characters that were built up throughout the story, and how they also tie into the inquiry, whether it's Oppenheimer's wife, or it's some of his other colleagues, or the General Graves, who is interviewed, and Strauss, and all of this other stuff. And also that Oppenheimer's known for being the guy who created the atom bomb, but that didn't prevent him from getting attacked himself by Strauss. And the quote that Einstein has, it definitely sticks with me when he talks about how, years later, they'll give you a medal, they'll do all this stuff for you, but it's not for you, it's for them. And I think a lot of the message about this script is really a lot of that. It's less about the creation of the bomb and what happened to the Japanese and so on and so forth, and it's more about uh, the politics. And I think some people are really against that, but I'm not. Actually think that works in this script's favor, because there's a lot of other movies, like I've said already, that have that kind of approach to the story of the creation of the atom bomb. And if you want that, you can watch Fat Man and Little Boy. You can watch a documentary about the creation of the atom bomb. You can watch a lot of different things that have that perspective. You're not really going to see that many films that have the perspective that Oppenheimer has when it comes to this moment in time from the point of view and the perspective of Oppenheimer himself. The cast, in my opinion, is incredible. It is an amazing cast, and I think it really is one of the best casts that has been assembled for a film in a long time. Cillian Murphy was mesmerizing to me as J. Robert Oppenheimer. He was so compelling. He nailed the man to a T. The mannerisms. He went all out with his performance. Lost all of his weight to give himself this gaunt appearance. And it is just a really powerhouse and just genuinely nuclear white hot performance by Cillian Murphy. And it's definitely, in my opinion, one of his best performances to date, and it could genuinely be at the end of his career his best work. I think he's still got some plenty left in the tank, so we'll have to see. But this is definitely a performance that's pretty hard to top. Very worthy of the acclaim and the awards that he received for it. An astounding performance. His performance as Oppenheimer was a major part of why I liked this film as much as I did, because I was just so drawn in and so compelled by Murphy's performance as Oppenheimer. The rest of the cast is great too. Emily Blunt as Kitty. Really loved her performance in this. Loved her dynamic with Cillian, and just a really solid performance by a very solid actress and Emily Blunt. Uh, and you have Matt Damon who plays Leslie Groves. I said Graves, but I that's my bad. But General Groves, and it's a good performance by him too. It's a performance that I would probably say is maybe not up there with some of his best work as an actor, but it's still some really good work. Regardless, Robert Downey Jr. deserved his Oscar for his performance as Strauss. Just a very complex, very layered performance. Played a great villain. Just a very glowering, just bubbling under the surface kind of performance. Very impressive, in my opinion, and easily stands as one of his best performances as an actor to date as well. Florence Pugh was also good as Jean Tatlock. She wasn't in a lot, but I felt the scenes that she did a really good job with them. Josh Hartnett was a really out of the box casting choice to play Ernest Lawrence, and it worked brilliantly. I thought he was amazing. I thought he was really good, and it's one of his best performances. Casey Affleck was really quite maybe not stunning, but did a amazing job in his own right as Boris Pash. Rami Malek made the most out of his few scenes as David Hill. Kenneth Branagh was really good as Niels Bohr. Benny Sadfi did some great work as Edward Teller. Jason Clarke was just the type of guy you wanted to slap in the face and wring his neck and pull him out of the screen and beat his ass. And Roger Robb, the attorney who was at the security hearing and just really grilling Oppenheimer. He does a great job playing those type of roles, and this is no exception. Like, he's one of the better actors working today when it comes to playing antagonizing characters. And The rest of the cast is good too. I mean, you got like David Malachian is William Borden, Dane Dehan, who plays Kenneth Nichols, Alden Ehrenreich as the Senate aide, who eventually uh, sticks the knife into Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Louis Strauss, later on in the film. Just a really accomplished, great cast. I mean, Tony Goldwyn is also in this as Gordon Gray, and a government official. David Krumholtz plays Rabi, a Nobel Prize winning physicist. Matthew Modine is in this as Vannevar Bush. You have, um, um, yeah, there's yeah, Jack Quaid, who plays the Fennyman. Josh Peck from Drake and Josh. He's actually in this as a chemist, a physicist. He's a physicist who worked on the Manhattan Project. So yeah, just a really diverse and really talented and tremendous cast. Um, Big part of why this film is so great is in large part because of just this great cast of actors and actresses delivering just really good performances. The cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytma I thought was excellent. I thought it was genuinely a sight to behold on more than one occasion. The editing by Jennifer Lame was anything but lame. I thought it was some really great editing, especially when it comes to the scene when the bomb is dropped and other sequences throughout the film, like the build up to the bomb being dropped. And there's just a lot of things about this film editing wise that I thought were really noteworthy, and some really strong and good stuff when it comes to the editing. And the music by Ludwig Göransson, it was great. Fit the film really well. Added a bit of an extra size and scope, and sometimes even flair to the film. Definitely added to the tension when the tension needed to be ratcheted up another notch, and added to the moments of spectacle and made them all the more spectacular. And yeah, it's a long movie, but I felt it was actually pretty tightly paced. I was surprised by how quickly this film went for me. Like, I thought it was going to be a slog. I thought it was going to be a really slow, dull movie because of all the characters and the subject material and the fact that it's a Nolan film, and it's got this way of telling the story that's very unorthodox, with everything just being kind of out of place in terms of the way that the narrative unfolds, but it maintained a pretty consistent amount of intrigue for me. And it never really lost that much propulsion. It never really lost that much momentum. It's a film that I'm glad to definitely have in my collection, and I'm glad that Nolan made it. And I'm glad it did well. Um, because in my opinion, this is the kind of movie that should make almost $1 billion. Because it's an important story. It's something we should not forget. As people, we should not forget the day that the atom bomb was created, and then the day when the atom bombs were dropped on Japan, and the impact that that all had on society. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of Oppenheimer, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.